What's up, everyone? This is Coach Amir from SevenFigureBody.com. In the last 16 years, I have helped transform over 1,200 successful entrepreneurs. I went from a fat kid to a pro athlete, 3-time national champion, and Olympic Games candidate. And in today's video, we're going to talk about TRT, testosterone replacement therapy. What is it? Should you use it? Is it for you? What are the pros and cons? We're going to cover it all. So let's go. All right, guys, you have probably, unless you've been living under a rock, especially in the entrepreneurial world where we want the high energy, we want the high productivity, TRT, or using testosterone replacement therapy, has become something more of a, you're kind of dumb if you're not using it. So for a few moments, I'm going to take a role of a TRT salesman for like 30 seconds, and here's how it looks. So an overweight guy comes into a doctor's office, and the doctor says, okay, so you're 40 years old, you're 37, 47, whatever. So do you have boners all day long? Do you want to bang your wife and mistresses and girlfriend, whoever, 10 times a day? And the guy's like, no, not really. Oh, no? Oh, you're definitely good for TRT. Oh, definitely. TRT, perfect for you. You can afford it, right? Like, what's a couple $100 a month for? You're going to feel like a Superman. And certainly you do initially, I'm sure, feel like a Superman, because that's what I've heard from every steroid user out there. If you just go on internet and see anybody who's using TRT, it's like the greatest decision they've ever made in their entire life. And I'm going to explain why that is and how to get that without TRT, by the way. The guy sold TRT. As the name says, so first let's talk about what, and by the way, that's how I'm sure how it goes. Yeah, they're going to do your blood work and say, hey, you have low T, or even if you have low T, but you don't have symptoms of actual low T, that's fine. You still need it because your testosterone level should be high, etc., etc. So all that, like, it's the easiest sale in the world. It's amazing. It's a steroid that grows muscle, burns fat. You're going to be jacked. You're going to have energy through the roof, feel like a Superman, and you certainly will if you are coming into it with symptoms of low T. If you're not, then it's not going to do that at all. But let's stick with the guy actually does have some symptoms, and he came to his doctor, hopefully, and the doctor sells it. Why? Because think about it. Every time, and remember, Charlie Munger, good old Uncle Charlie, always says when there's a financial incentive for humans, always, or at least 99.999% of the time, count them on doing the thing that makes them money. So, not to say that all the doctors are, like bad and they just go for money, but when a fat guy or overweight guy comes into the doctor's office, the doctor's like, another beach house just came in. Yeah, another Ferrari just came in. Why? Because TRT is expensive. I don't know what it costs because it matters on what your insurance is. Do you have insurance? Not what the coverage is, but it's a couple $100 a month with insurance. Without insurance, I'm sure it's a lot more, at least in the US. So a couple $100 a month forever, because almost always TRT is forever, which we're going to talk about in a second as well. What is TRT and what was it designed to do? So TRT stands for testosterone replacement therapy. Huge point here that I'm sure many miss, because testosterone replacement therapy means if you don't have enough testosterone, by the way, in the US at least, 300 to 900 or 300 to 1,000 is the normal physiological range. If you're anywhere between that, you're in the normal range. Even if 350 or 850, it's all within the normal range. Now, let's say you are below the 300, like you actually do the blood work and do the test and it says you are below 300. Now you are what they call hypogonadal, which means you don't produce enough testosterone naturally. So in that case, the TRT is a medical treatment designed to get you from below normal up to into the normal range, somewhere in the 3 to 900, or let's say 3 to 1,000. By the way, 15 plus years ago when I was in pharmacy school, the normal range was 300 to like 800 something, like almost, let's say 3 to 900. Now they moved it, and they also are moving the lower range to be lower, simply because as everybody's getting more overweight and has a worse lifestyle, which we're going to talk about in a second, what are the reasons that people actually have low T, everybody's testosterone is at an increasing rate going down. worse, 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 and lower every single year and decade if we look at the last few decades. Now, because of that, they're trying to lower the lower end to say that, oh, you're not that bad, it's fine, which is ridiculous. It's basically like saying, everybody's getting more overweight, so let's just make bigger cars and bigger houses so they don't notice that they're getting bigger. That's literally the approach here, which is ridiculous. But anyways, so it's designed to get you from, if you are below the normal lower range of the physiological range, into the physiological range. In that case, you're replacing something that isn't there with what it's supposed to be there. Now, almost always, or a lot of times these days, you have TRT clinics left and right because they all figured out that's a lot of money to be made in there. So now you have 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, probably vast majority of people who are on TRT should not be on TRT at all, but they are. Why? Because it makes the doctor a ton of money. And at least initially, makes you feel a lot better. So that's why you'll see all the people on TRT, the greatest thing I've ever done, literally I got my life back, and et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure it feels like that. You feel like a Superman short term. Question is, do any of these people actually know the risks? Do they know the side effects of having that? The answer almost is no. So one tip that I can give you, if you ever considered TRT, please, by all means, do not ask a TRT user if you should take TRT. It's like asking a steroid user, should you take steroids? It's like asking a criminal, should you go into crime? And should you build a business as you should, or should you just rob a bank and have $2 million, right? Don't ask them, because obviously they wouldn't be doing what they're doing if they knew what the side effects or risks are, obviously, right? So that's why it's like, the funniest thing to me is like on the internet, somebody says, I'm taking steroids, but I've done my research on them. Really? You've done your research? What's the research? Well, I asked the steroid using dude if I should take steroids. He said, of course, dude. Like, what are you dumb? What are you gonna try to do it naturally? Just inject, bro. That's all there is. Same thing with TRT. If you go and ask any guy who's on TRT, he's gonna be like, as I said, the greatest thing he's ever done. Now, let's talk about what are the actual symptoms. So you have low libido, low energy, basically mood is bad, depression, like you just feel like, ugh, you feel horrible. And by the way, being at low T is very, very, very unhealthy. It shortens your life, kills you faster, you just feel like shit all the time. You're much more, imagine waking up every morning feeling like, ugh, I feel like shit. Obviously, and by the way, how do I know that? When a couple of times in my life, when I got really, really, really like photo shoot, level shredded, naturally, of course, as I always am, being below 10% body fat, like single digit, is completely awful if you are natural, because your testosterone production goes down because you're so lean, the body thinks you're going to starve to death and says, hey, producing testosterone, which is good for your muscle, good for your sex, drive, the libido, energy, I don't care about any of that. You're going to starve to death. So your testosterone goes down. So at some point, at this picture, you can see here, I was kind of like, almost single digits, maybe even leaner than this. My testosterone was 315 because I did the testosterone level. I felt awful. So that's why anytime you feel somebody being shredded all the time, you know that they're not natural. Very, very, very unlikely that they're natural, because they would feel like shit. Yet you have these shredded guys being like full of energy, working out. Dude, when I was at that level, I would go to the gym and be like, oh, I feel like sleeping. Like the only thing you think about is a hamburger. Like there's a, let's say you have a hot wife or girlfriend and she's walking naked next to you and like, that's great. How about a hamburger? Right? Like you have no sex drive at all, no libido, nothing. Your testosterone goes to shit. That's how an average guy who is overweight, sedentary, terrible lifestyle, terrible nutrition, all this, probably how he feels all the time. It's awful, I get it. So when, the good doctor injects testosterone in you, you're like, oh my God, I go from that to a Superman. Of course you're gonna feel amazing. However, here's what the risks are. The number one risk when taking TRT, especially when you go in the supraphysiological dose, which means the doctor's not gonna, let's say you're 320, you're kind of at the borderline of the lower range. And the question is, should I be on TRT? The answer is maybe, but maybe not. Because do you have symptoms? That's the number one thing that I would ask. Do you have symptoms? Do you feel like what I just described? If you do, and you can't recover from exercise, you have a hard time building muscle, hard time losing body fat, all of these things that are basically like making you feel like shit, If that's the case, you have symptoms, then consider doing the things that are naturally going to raise your testosterone level, okay? And I'm going to talk about them in a second. Let's first talk about the risks of TRT. Because if you go to any clinic, 99% chance they'll be like, oh, you definitely need to be on TRT, because everybody does, makes them money, of course. Is you get high chance or higher chance of heart attacks, because remember, testosterone is the steroid. It's the main original steroid that grows tissues, grows muscle, but grows everything else too. So if you have potential cancer cells that would take you 90 years to develop, cancer, prostate, some other cancer, now everything's growing faster because you have a lot more testosterone than you naturally would. And in that case, you have higher chance of growing prostate cancer, all kinds of other cancers. Cardiovascular disease risks go up because at the end of the day, you increase the red blood cells. That thickens your blood. Also, that directly is going to raise your blood pressure. And all of these things combined, much higher risk of heart attacks. Also, there are a bunch of studies that show that men who are already prone to heart attacks, which most of us are to some level, higher or more, there's genetic component, there's lifestyle component, a bunch of things affected. People who are, or men who are more prone to or already have a risk of heart attacks are more likely to get heart attacks if they are on TRT compared to if they're not. Of course. Also, your natural production of testosterone goes down to zero when you take exogenous hormones. Why? Because the body needs to use energy to produce hormones. And in that case, what's going to happen if you just inject from external world, like external exogenous testosterone is injected, the brain is like, great, I don't need to use my own energy to produce it. My own production goes down the drain. So some studies have shown that if you take TRT for 2 years or 3 or something, very likely you can never recover after that. So it is for life, and for most people who take TRT, it is forever. Also, your estrogen, the other hormone that is, for women, it's the main, estrogen is the main female hormone. For men, they work in the opposing. The higher your testosterone is, the lower estrogen should be. All of these other hormones go completely out of whack, and then you have to control these with a bunch of other medications. Sounds very healthy, right? Something you could have done probably naturally. Now you're taking one hormone that's causing all kinds of things, some good, certainly, because your energy goes up, like all these things that I said, the symptoms improve, but there's also a lot of downsides to it. So generally speaking, you can get aggression, road rage, you have to inject needles into yourself, twice a week, once a week, whatever it is. Generally speaking, all of these things are something that's usually not talked about. It's like, oh, testosterone is great, just take it. Sure. On the other hand, let's talk about the main thing. What can you do to get your natural testosterone production up, or your normal production up naturally? 2 big things and 3 little less big but very important things, okay? 2 big things: sleep, stress. Here's why. When you sleep, your body recovers. Also, you produce the most testosterone between midnight and like 5 or 6 a.m. At that time, you should be sleeping. If your sleep is not good, you're literally not producing enough testosterone because you're not recovering well. And number 2, if you're stressed out of your mind, remember cortisol, the stress hormone, is in direct opposition to testosterone. The more stressed out you are, the lower your testosterone is going to be. And just also, let's talk, again, what I love is human physiology. So let's take big picture and take human physiology, look at why this is. So when you sleep, you are recovering mentally and physically, and your body produces testosterone, which is good for you. It does everything great. It makes you a man, builds muscle, burns fat, gives you that like everything man. Like very manly thing is the more testosterone you have. Also, studies have shown higher testosterone you have and the more muscle you have, there's a correlation. The more muscle you have, the more testosterone it's going to be high, and vice versa. It's not causation, but there is correlation, right? More testosterone, more of a man, jacked, and everything else you will be. So when you sleep and properly recover, your body's producing testosterone. When you don't, it doesn't. Also, when you're stressed out from whatever it is, imagine you are stressed out of your mind for whatever reason, and the body's like, hey, I got to deal with this stress here. What does it matter to me to produce testosterone, be strong? It doesn't. The body's like using all the energy to fight the stress that you have, usually, mental stress, rather than, oh, let me relax and produce testosterone. So those are the 2 big things. Try to reduce stress with, number 1, exercise, meditation, sex, walking in the nature, whatever things relax you, do that. Having some wine, totally fine. Whatever relaxes you and de-stresses you, do that. 2, focus on sleep. I have several videos actually on how to improve your sleep. Those are the 2 big things. Then the other 2 are getting lean. If you are a male, you want to get your body fat percentage at least close, if not below 15% body fat. This is how it looks. There's a picture of a guy, 15 to 17% body fat. If you are higher fat percentage than this, you are more overweight than this, remember, fat cells have an enzyme called aromatase. Basically the fatter we get as men, the lower our testosterone gets, because this aromatase converts testosterone to estrogen. This is why a very overweight man, let's say obese man, starts to get boobs, man boobs, and look like a woman. Because his testosterone is so low, his estrogen goes so high, he's literally starting to look like a woman. So one of the biggest things is what your fat percentage is. The fatter you are, the lower your testosterone is going to be. That's why over 1,200 clients that I've had so far, I've noticed 2 things. When a man is over 20% body fat, which an average person is in the modern world, an average guy is over 20% body fat. There are 2 levels that I've noticed, huge boost in testosterone. One of them, below 20%. Like the moment you get to 20% or just below, clients report, this is not scientific at all, this is just purely from experience, my male clients report huge increases in libido, sex drive, wife is happy, girlfriend, whatever you have is really happy, you're happy, everything's great. The other one is kind of below 12, 13% when you start getting abs. This also could be kind of mental too, because you are hey, I have abs for the first time in my life, I look amazing, I feel amazing, it's great, and all that could kind of push your testosterone to be higher and your overall sex drive and libido to be higher. Stress, sleep, getting lean. 4th thing is the composition of your diet. Because remember, you can do all the first 3 things. You can focus on your sleep, you can de-stress, and you can get lean eating junk food. Certainly just control your calories and have enough protein, but you won't really be healthy. That's why focus on a good diet. Healthy, good diet that's consumed of healthy, good meats, dairy, fish, and a lot of vegetables and fruit, which is what we humans were designed to eat. Also, the percentage of fats, healthy fats that you have in your diet are extremely important, because cholesterol from foods, from animal-based sources actually are the precursor for testosterone. So when you eat good, healthy red meat, eggs, dairy, fish, fattier fish, sardines, salmon, fats from these actually produce testosterone, which is the reason why vegan men a lot of times have low testosterone, because veganism ends up being high carb, low protein and low fat diet, and on a low fat diet your testosterone goes down. Now there's a limit to this, 20 to 30% of your total calories. I also have videos on this. 20 to 30% of your calories should be coming from healthy fats, and if you go a lot more, like 30% to 60% fat, there's not really a big increase in testosterone. So 20 to 30% is enough, okay? So again, sleep, stress, getting lean, good diet, and the 5th one is, of course, what? Exercise. And not in a way that you've heard. You've probably heard, you lift weights, your testosterone goes up a little. True, but it doesn't do anything for building muscle, burning fat, because that's very short-lived. Your growth hormone and testosterone go up after lifting weights. That's true. However, they go down really quickly and it doesn't do anything. What I'm talking about when it comes to exercise is overall one of the healthiest things you can do for your health and longevity, energy, and everything else is exercise. And that's why it's just a part of a healthy person's normal daily routine and lifestyle. Not like, oh, exercise is magical for growing your testosterone. It is short term and doesn't do anything. Long term, no. So guys, again, focus on your sleep, de-stress, get lean, build muscle through lifting weights, and focus on your good diet. Do these 5 things. I guarantee you 99%, if not more, of the people who are on TRT, if they did these 5 things and got them in check, they would not have low T and they wouldn't need TRT. They wouldn't have any downsides, all of these risks, all of that would not happen. Now, a couple of scenarios here. What if, because the biggest thing that I want you to focus on is free testosterone. That should be about 2% of your total testosterone. Total testosterone doesn't really matter much, even though that's mostly what everybody looks at, just like your total cholesterol. what if you know the LDL, the bad cholesterol, and HDL, the good one? What if your LDL cholesterol is low or normal range, but your HDL, the good one, is high? That's a great thing, yet that could push your total cholesterol over the top limit, and the doctor will be like, that's bad. It's not bad at all. LDL is what matters. The other we don't really care about. Same thing here. What if you have total testosterone in the 400s, which means you are completely in a physiological range and you have no symptoms whatsoever? Your sex drive, libido are totally fine, energy is good. Should you be on TRT? No, just keep going. Of course you shouldn't. On the other hand, what if, and again, we look at your free testosterone. If it's not good, let's say it's 5 and it's supposed to be 15 to 20 is good. Let's say it's 5, but your total testosterone is good. I would look into these 5 things. Yes, let's try to get your testosterone up. Now, one thing here is, what if, which is probably the most common case of today's, entrepreneurs and everybody in the internet marketing wants to be jacked, so they're all on steroids, all on TRT. And TRT, by the way, is like child play compared to what most of these guys, fitness influencers on YouTube and Instagram are using. They're using everything else, trenbolone, growth hormone, antivars, God knows what else. Testosterone is like, that's for kids, right? So please keep that in mind. So one last thing, testosterone replacement therapy is not testosterone enhancement therapy. Again, it's supposed to get you from hypogonadal, below 300, into the normal range. That's not what happens a lot of times. A lot of times you have a guy at 500, which is completely normal, doesn't need to do anything, no symptoms, but he has low self-esteem and is an idiot, and therefore he takes testosterone to go to like 1500. Now he's on gear. He's legit on steroids with all the side effects and risks. That's not TRT. That's not replacement therapy. You're not replacing your normal with 1500. You're now testosterone enhancement idea. You're now literally on steroids. That's not what TRT was designed for. That is illegal, by the way. So that's literally abuse of testosterone. That is illegal for a reason, because you shouldn't be just injecting hormones of any kind as you feel like, because of all the medical risks and other health risks that you have. So anyways, guys, I hope that, and by the way, let me actually, final thing. 2 reasons or 2 scenarios in which I see guys should be on TRT. Number 1, if you are a professional bodybuilder, or you are a Hollywood actor making, 50 million a movie and you need to be jacked, sure. Still, if I was a Hollywood actor, I would still do it all naturally and build a great physique, because I would value my health long term versus, because you can get jacked naturally. Certainly, be jacked for the movie and then get less jacked, meaning you go from 9% body fat to 12 or 13. At 12, 13, you can maintain forever. 9, you probably, or 6 or 7, naturally, you probably cannot. So, but let's say these 2 are justified. When you're a professional bodybuilder, probably have to be on it. And then you have, Hollywood actors. That's one scenario. The other scenario is the guy who says, I'm lazy. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to focus on a diet. I don't want to work out. I'm fat. And my testosterone is low. I feel like shit. So I just want to, get on that needle, man. If that's the case, no judgment. I wouldn't do that. But again, if you're an entrepreneur, that's probably not for you either. But if somebody is off that mindset, testosterone replacement is good for them, because living, being miserable and dying sooner from low testosterone is probably worse and, than just taking testosterone and taking all of the risks with that. So those are the only 2 scenarios I see it justified. Also, there's one legit scenario. I have clients who had, a tumor on the pituitary gland, so they literally cannot produce testosterone. Or you have done these 5 things that I said: sleep, stress, get lean, build muscle with exercise, and have a good diet. You've done these 5 things and you still have low T, then in that case it's genetic, some kind of reason in your body that you can't produce it. If that was me, I would be on TRT tomorrow. So if you have these 5 things and you still have low T, low free T, and you have symptoms, by all means you should be on TRT. Nothing else that I said in that case matters, because it's better than having all the symptoms, being miserable and dying early. Again, my belief is that that's probably less than 1% of all the people in the world who are on testosterone is that. But there's options for everybody. I just want to have you have the right information so you can make the right decision based on complete information. Because at the end, you are the only person in this world who should make that decision. Nobody should make that for you. So here's all the information, and I hope that helps. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching. See you next time.